What if everything you thought you knew about creation was just the beginning of a much deeper truth that has been whispered through generations for thousands of years? The Great Spirit holds secrets that might change how you see the world forever. Today, we're diving into one of humanity's most profound spiritual concepts: the Great Spirit, the supreme creator deity that forms the heart of countless Native American belief systems. You'll discover how this divine force shaped entire civilizations, guided warriors through impossible battles, and continues to influence millions of people today. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this ancient wisdom might be exactly what our modern world desperately needs. If you're ready to explore these life-changing spiritual truths, hit that subscribe button right now. Picture this: a young Lakota warrior named Tatanka sits alone on a wind-swept prairie hilltop, his weathered hands pressed against the earth. The setting sun paints the sky in deep crimson and gold. His grandmother's voice echoes in his memory from years past. "Listen carefully, my child," she had whispered, her ancient eyes reflecting firelight. Before the mountains rose from the earth, before the rivers carved their paths, before the first breath of wind touched the grass, there was only Wakantanka, the Great Spirit. Not a being you can see or touch, but the sacred force that flows through everything that exists. This scene captures the essence of how Native American cultures have understood the divine for millennia. The Great Spirit isn't just a distant god sitting on a throne somewhere in the clouds. It's the living, breathing energy that connects every grain of sand to every soaring eagle, every human heartbeat to every rustling leaf. Among the Cherokee, this force is called Unetlanvi, meaning the one who provides. The Cherokee elder Sequoyah once described it like this: imagine trying to separate the wetness from water, or the heat from fire. That's how impossible it is to separate the Great Spirit from creation itself. They are one and the same. The Hopi people speak of the Great Spirit as the source of all life's instructions. According to their oral traditions, when the world was still forming, the Great Spirit planted sacred knowledge deep within the earth and sky. Every mountain peak holds teachings, explains Hopi wisdom. Every flowing stream carries messages. The Great Spirit doesn't speak in words like humans do. It speaks through the dance of seasons, through the migration patterns of animals, through dreams that visit us in the darkness. But here's where the story takes a dramatic turn. Unlike many religious traditions that separate the divine from the natural world, Native American beliefs place the Great Spirit at the center of an interconnected web of existence. This created a massive problem when European colonizers arrived with completely different spiritual frameworks. Picture the confusion and heartbreak. Missionary John Smith stands before a group of Ojibwe people in 1847, holding his leather-bound Bible. His voice carries across the forest clearing as he declares, "You must abandon these primitive beliefs about spirits in trees and stones. There is only one true God, and he rules from heaven above." An elderly Ojibwe medicine woman named Nokomis steps forward, her silver braids catching the morning light. Her voice trembles not with fear, but with deep sorrow. "Young man," she says softly, "you speak of your God as if he lives far away from his children. Our Gitcha Manido lives within every breath we take, every step of a walk. How can you ask us to worship a God who has abandoned his creation?" This fundamental clash of worldviews led to centuries of cultural suppression. Native American children were forcibly removed from their families and placed in boarding schools, where they were forbidden from speaking their languages or practicing their spiritual traditions. The goal was clear: erase the connection to the Great Spirit and replace it with foreign religious concepts. Yet the Great Spirit's influence proved impossible to destroy. Even in the darkest moments of cultural genocide, Native communities found ways to preserve their sacred knowledge. Grandmothers whispered ancient prayers in hidden ceremonies. Grandfathers continued teaching their grandchildren to read the language of nature. The sacred fire of spiritual connection never died completely. During the 1960s civil rights movement, something extraordinary happened. Native American spiritual leader Black Elk's grandson, Wallace Black Elk, began sharing his grandfather's visions with the wider world. He spoke at universities and spiritual gatherings, describing the Great Spirit's message for modern humanity. My grandfather saw in his visions that a time would come when all people would need to remember the sacred connection, Wallace explained to a packed auditorium at Stanford University in 1972. The Great Spirit doesn't belong only to Native people. This divine force flows through every human being, regardless of skin color or cultural background. But we have forgotten how to listen. His words sparked a spiritual awakening that continues today. Thousands of non-native people began seeking authentic teachings about the Great Spirit, leading to both beautiful cultural exchanges and concerning appropriation issues. The Great Spirit's teachings offer profound solutions to modern problems. Consider the environmental crisis. While mainstream society treats nature as a resource to be exploited, the Great Spirit tradition teaches that harming the earth is literally harming ourselves. Chief Seattle's famous words capture this perfectly. If we do not own the freshness of the air and the sparkle of the water, how can you buy them from us? This isn't just poetic language. It represents a completely different way of understanding human responsibility. When the Lakota say, "Mitakuye o Yasin," meaning all my relations, they're acknowledging that the Great Spirit connects them to every living being. This spiritual principle could revolutionize how we approach climate change, animal rights, and social justice. The healing traditions connected to the Great Spirit also offer incredible insights. Traditional Native American medicine doesn't just treat physical symptoms. It addresses spiritual imbalance, emotional wounds, and community disconnection simultaneously. Medicine man Rolling Thunder once explained, "When someone becomes sick, we don't just ask what's wrong with their body. We ask what's wrong with their relationship to the Great Spirit, to their family, to the natural world around them." Modern research is finally catching up to these ancient understandings. Studies show that people who maintain strong spiritual connections to nature experience lower rates of depression, anxiety, and chronic illness. The Mayo Clinic now acknowledges that traditional Native American healing practices can complement conventional medical treatments effectively. But perhaps the most powerful aspect of Great Spirit teachings relates to death and the afterlife. Rather than fearing death as an ending, many native traditions view it as a transformation. The Lakota concept of the Spirit Trail, what astronomers call the Milky Way, represents the path souls take to rejoin the Great Spirit after physical death. Imagine the comfort this brings to grieving families. Death isn't separation, it's reunion with the divine source. The deceased don't disappear into nothingness or face judgment from a distant deity. They return to the Great Spirit that has been part of them all along, and their essence continues to flow through the sacred web of existence. This understanding transforms how we live as well. If the Great Spirit flows through us right now, if we're already connected to the divine source, then every moment becomes sacred. Every interaction with another person becomes a meeting between aspects of the Great Spirit. Every decision we make affects the entire web of existence. The Great Spirit tradition teaches that we don't need intermediaries to connect with the divine. No priests, no special buildings, no complex rituals are required. The connection already exists within us. We simply need to remember how to listen, how to feel, how to recognize the sacred presence that surrounds us constantly. Today, as humanity faces unprecedented challenges, the wisdom of the Great Spirit offers a path forward, not through dominance or control, but through remembering our place in the sacred web of existence, not through separation from nature, but through recognizing our fundamental interconnectedness with all life. The Great Spirit isn't just an ancient concept relegated to history books. It's a living spiritual reality that continues to guide, heal, and transform lives across the globe. When we truly understand that the same divine force that created the mountains and rivers also created us, everything changes. We become caretakers rather than conquerors, relatives rather than strangers, healers rather than harmers. The next time you feel the wind on your face or watch sunlight dance through leaves, remember Tatanka on that prairie hilltop, listening to his grandmother's ancient wisdom. The Great Spirit speaks the same language today that it has always spoken, through the natural world, through our dreams, through the quiet voice of conscience that guides us toward truth and compassion. Subscribe for more ancient wisdom that can transform your modern life.